You have within you a spark that can light up the world. Your dreams are the stardust that will guide you through the darkest nights. He tells them about the power of giving their very best. No matter how hard things get, he says, remember that perseverance is the key. Every challenge is a chance to grow, every failure a lesson learned. He encourages them to use their talents efficiently. Your gifts are unique, he says, and the world needs what only you can offer. So never hold back. Pour your heart into everything you do. And remember, he concludes, it's never too late to start. Whether you're 9 or 90, your dreams are worth chasing. With a smile, he adds, believe in yourself because I believe in you. And together we'll turn those dreams into reality.
Welcome to a deep dive into Genesis chapter 1 from the King James Bible. You're interested in exploring this foundational chapter, and we're excited to unpack it with you. Now, even if you've heard the story of creation before, we're going beyond a simple retelling. We'll uncover some surprising facts and nuances that might change how you see this ancient text.
That's right. Genesis is often considered the starting point for understanding the Judeo-Christian worldview. And chapter 1 specifically sets the scene with its account of creation. It sparked countless debates and interpretations throughout history, and it continues to fascinate us today.
Okay, let's dive right in. Genesis 1:1 famously states, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." What strikes you about this opening line?
What's fascinating is the sheer boldness of it. It's a statement of absolute power and authority. In just a few words, it establishes God as the ultimate creator, the source of everything that exists. It sets the stage for the entire narrative that follows.
But then we move to verse 2, and it paints a different picture. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. It almost feels like a contradiction, doesn't it?
Right, it's a bit of a puzzle. The Hebrew words used here, tohu and bohu, evoke a sense of emptiness, chaos, even formlessness. It's like a raw, unshaped potential waiting to be molded. And this darkness covering everything adds a layer of mystery and even a hint of danger.
So we have this primordial state of darkness and formlessness. And then comes that iconic command in verse 3, let there be light.
It's a moment of pure creative power, light bursting forth from the darkness. It's not just a physical event, it's a powerful metaphor for the beginning of time, for order emerging from chaos, and for the divine presence entering the void.
It's interesting how light holds such universal significance, right? Across cultures and religions. It's associated with knowledge, truth, and goodness.
Absolutely. Think about ancient Egyptian mythology, where the sun god Ra is seen as the creator and life giver. Or in Zoroastrianism, where fire represents divine light and wisdom. Even in modern science, we talk about the Big Bang as a moment of intense light and energy that gave birth to the universe.
It makes you wonder if there's something inherently powerful about light that resonates deep within us, something that connects to our understanding of creation and the divine.
Perhaps it speaks to our innate desire for order and meaning in a world that can often feel chaotic and unpredictable.
Okay, so day 1 concludes with the separation of light from darkness, creating day and night. Moving on to day 2, the text tells us God created a firmament to divide the waters. Now that word firmament, can you clarify what it means in this context?
You're right to point that out. The firmament, in the ancient Hebrew understanding, was essentially a vast dome-like structure that separated the waters above and the waters below. Think of it as a solid barrier, like a giant celestial ceiling.
So, they imagine the sky as a physical barrier. That's quite different from our modern scientific understanding of the atmosphere and outer space.
It is, but if you put yourself in the shoes of people living thousands of years ago, it makes sense. They observed rain falling from the sky, birds flying above, and the celestial bodies seemingly fixed in this dome-like structure. Their cosmology reflected their lived experience and the limits of their scientific knowledge.
It's fascinating how different cultures and historical periods have conceptualized the universe based on their observations and beliefs. But even with these different models, there's a common human impulse to understand our place in the cosmos. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Whether we envision the universe as a giant dome, a series of interconnected spheres, or an expanding web of space-time, we're constantly seeking to make sense of the world around us and our place within it.
All right, day 3 takes us to the emergence of dry land. God commands the waters to gather, revealing the earth. and then plans are brought forth. It feels like we're starting to see the world take shape, become more recognizable as the planet we know.
You're absolutely right. There's a sense of progression here, a movement from formlessness to form, from emptiness to abundance. And the emergence of plant life is particularly significant. Plants provide the foundation for the entire ecosystem, offering oxygen, food, and habitat for other life forms.
If we look at it from a scientific perspective, the appearance of plants aligns with our understanding of early life on Earth. Photosynthetic organisms played a crucial role in transforming the atmosphere and paving the way for the evolution of more complex life.
Precisely. The Genesis account may not use scientific language, but it captures this essential sequence of events, highlighting the vital role of plants in the web of life.
And then on day 4, we have the creation of the sun, moon, and stars. It's like the universe is being illuminated, both literally and figuratively.
Yes, it's a pivotal moment. Genesis tells us these celestial bodies were created for signs and for seasons and for days and years. They're not just sources of light, they're markers of time, bringing order and rhythm to the cosmos.
It makes you think about how ancient civilizations were so attuned to the movements of the sun and moon. Their lives revolved around these cycles, and they developed intricate systems of timekeeping based on celestial observations.
Think about Stonehenge, for example, that ancient monument aligned with the solstices and equinoxes, or the elaborate calendars developed by the Mayans, who tracked the movements of Venus and other celestial bodies with incredible precision.
It's amazing how humans have always looked to the heavens for guidance, for meaning, and for a way to connect to something larger than themselves.
It speaks to our innate curiosity and our desire to understand our place in the grand scheme of things.
All right, moving on to day 5, where we see the creation of sea creatures and birds. The text describes the waters bringing forth abundantly all sorts of life.
There's a real sense of teeming abundance here, a celebration of life in all its diversity. We have everything from great whales to tiny creatures that creep and crawl in the depths.
It reminds me of those incredible nature documentaries that showcase the breathtaking variety of life in our oceans. It's easy to feel a sense of awe and wonder at the sheer creativity of the natural world.
And it's not just about the visual spectacle. These creatures play vital roles in maintaining the balance of the ecosystem. The Genesis account may not use scientific terms, but it implicitly recognizes the interconnectedness of all life.
Day 6 brings us to the creation of land animals, and then, of course, the pinnacle of creation, humankind, the text states. And God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." What are your thoughts on this pivotal verse?
This is perhaps the most debated and discussed verse in all of Genesis. What does it mean to be created in the image of God? Theologians and philosophers have grappled with this question for centuries.
Is it about our physical appearance, our intellectual capacity, our moral conscience, or perhaps a combination of all these things?
Some interpretations focus on our capacity for reason, creativity, and self-awareness. Others emphasize our ability to love and form relationships and to experience a sense of the divine.
And along with this creation comes a significant responsibility. Humans are given dominion over all other creatures, tasked with subduing the earth. How do we interpret this concept of dominion in a responsible and ethical way?
That's a crucial question. Historically, this idea of dominion has been used to justify exploitation and environmental degradation. But many scholars argue that a more accurate understanding is one of stewardship, of caring for the earth and its creatures as entrusted to us.
So rather than a license to exploit, it's a call to responsibility.
Exactly. It implies a deep respect for the natural world and an understanding that we are interconnected with all living beings.
It's interesting how these ancient texts can still raise such relevant and challenging questions about our relationship with the environment and our ethical obligations to other species.
They invite us to reflect on our actions and to consider the long-term consequences of our choices.
And then finally we reach day 7 to Sabbath. After all the work of creation, God rests.
It's a profound moment. It suggests that creation is not just about ceaseless activity, but also about stillness, contemplation, and appreciation.
In our fast-paced, achievement-oriented culture, it's easy to forget the importance of rest. The Sabbath reminds us to pause, to reflect, and to reconnect with ourselves, with others, and with the natural world.
It's a reminder that our worth is not solely based on productivity, but on simply being. We are creatures worthy of rest, just as God rested after creating the world.
So we've journeyed through the 7 days of creation, witnessing the emergence of light, the separation of the waters, the flourishing of life, and finally the creation of humanity. It's a story filled with profound symbolism and timeless themes. Now you might be thinking, how does this ancient account of creation align with what we know from modern science? After all, science tells us the universe evolved over billions of years, not 7 days.
That's a key question, and it's important to remember that Genesis, well, it isn't trying to be a scientific textbook. It's using poetic language and symbolism to convey deeper truths about the nature of creation and humanity's place in it.
So it's more about the why of creation than the how.
Exactly. Genesis explores fundamental questions like where did we come from? Why are we here? What is our relationship to the Creator and to the rest of creation? These are questions that science alone can't fully answer.
And despite their different approaches, both science and Genesis share some interesting parallels. Both acknowledge that the universe had a beginning, a moment of emergence from a state of nothingness or chaos.
Right. Science points to the Big Bang, this incredible expansion of energy and matter from a single point. Genesis describes this primordial state of tohu vavohu, formless and void, out of which God brings order and life.
It's fascinating how these two seemingly different narratives converge on this idea of a starting point, a moment of creation.
It suggests a fundamental human need to understand origins, to trace our roots back to some ultimate source.
Something else that struck me about the Genesis account is the emphasis on language. God speaks things into being, let there be light, let the waters be gathered, let the earth bring forth vegetation. It's as if the act of naming is as important as the act of creating.
That's a great observation. Throughout Genesis, language plays a powerful role. Think about Adam naming the animals in the Garden of Eden. It suggests a kind of dominion, an understanding and categorization of the natural world.
It makes you wonder if language itself is a kind of creative force, a way of shaping reality and making sense of our experiences.
Certainly the words we use, the stories we tell, they all influence how we perceive the world around us.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider. We've explored the creation narrative from the perspective of the divine narrator. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if we imagined the story from the viewpoint of the earth itself?
That's a really intriguing idea. How might the mountains, the rivers, the trees experience this unfolding of creation? Would they feel awe, fear, joy?
It challenges us to think beyond our anthropocentric worldview and recognize the interconnectedness of all life, the inherent value of all creation.
Perhaps it would inspire us to be more responsible stewards of this planet we share, recognizing that we are not just masters of creation, but also part of it.
So there you have it, Genesis chapter 1. It's a text that continues to inspire wonder, debate, and deeper understanding. Whether you approach it from a religious, philosophical, or purely literary perspective, it offers rich insights into the human experience, our relationship to the divine, and our place in the grand tapestry of creation.
And it reminds us that even ancient texts can still speak to us today, challenging our assumptions and inviting us to see the world with fresh eyes.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Genesis. We hope it's sparked your curiosity and given you some food for thought.
You have within you a spark that can light up the world. Your dreams are the stardust that will guide you through the darkest nights. He tells them about the power of giving their very best. No matter how hard things get, he says, remember that perseverance is the key. Every challenge is a chance to grow, every failure a lesson learned. He encourages them to use their talents efficiently. Your gifts are unique, he says, and the world needs what only you can offer. So never hold back. Pour your heart into everything you do. And remember, he concludes, it's never too late to start. Whether you're 9 or 90, your dreams are worth chasing. With a smile, he adds, believe in yourself because I believe in you. And together we'll turn those dreams into reality.